What's up, A to Z Sports Live on this Monday. Glad to have everybody along. Hope your first weekend of April went well. Great weather in Nashville, and also we avoided the April Fool's disaster. But we were talking this morning about the reports that came out last night. Buck Rising of A to Z Sports able to confirm something that Daniel Jeremiah of NFL.com discussed late last week in his Move the Sticks podcast. The Tennessee Titans are interested and have been looking into the move up to the third overall pick in the NFL draft from the 11th overall pick. And so we'll discuss what that could potentially mean. Also, we'll play you the video and the podcast clip from Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks from the Move the Six podcast via the NFL.com podcast network. So we'll discuss all of that. Also, what it means and what A to Z Sports was able to do with confirming what Daniel Jeremiah discussed, and then talk about it, right? Because Ray Carthon, his first offseason as an NFL GM, now having his team's name being tossed around to move up to the third overall pick, and also what that third overall pick would mean. So, Zach, welcome in. Oh, you had a busy week last week traveling in Dallas and some other areas around the country for A to Z Sports, but welcome back. Hope you had a good week. Ready to get this thing going as we are officially in draft month. So let's fire it up.
Yeah, it was a long week last week, but eventful, and glad to sleep in my own bed this weekend. That's always nice from coming back from traveling, but got a lot done and ready for this week of shows. Got a big Monday on the news of what happened yesterday. And yesterday evening, really, regarding the Tennessee Titans. So got a lot to discuss. We are broadcasting live on 3 different platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We got you locked in right there. We will tweet out link after link, segment by segment, on our Twitter at A to Z Sports. So follow us at A to Z Sports on Twitter. That's a great follow there. And subscribe to our YouTube channel if you have not already. A lot more people are watching our live shows and also watching our clips, watching a ton of content going out on YouTube. So subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you've already subscribed to our YouTube channel, we're well on our way to 12,000 subscribers. If you've already subscribed, then what you need to do is like this video. It helps the algorithm go around on YouTube. We get more Titans fans, more NFL fans in our community as we ask questions and interact with you guys every single morning and night with primetime. So subscribe or like this video on Facebook. What's going on Facebookers, bottom left corner of your screen. Sharing out of public. Sharing is caring, and caring is sharing, as we say on this show. Share the show around. We need to pop up in your Facebook friends news feed, and more people will be piling in over the next 5 to 10 minutes, and we'll get this thing going on a Monday morning.
Yep, we'll do it officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered by the BetMGM app. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Zach Bingham. Make sure you follow us all over social media, as we are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Link to the show segment by segment on our Twitter timeline at A to Z Sports, and also hit us up on Instagram and TikTok for more Titans coverage. We got to thank our sponsors because they truly make it happen for us, and they help out all of y'all, like Wilson County Hyundai. Make WilsonCountyHyundai.com a part of your new car buying process by going to see them in Lebanon, or their website, WilsonCountyHyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Plus, Farm Bureau Health Plans. Get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans. That means better coverage rates and service. Learn more about a health plan for you, fbhp.com/ATOZ. So, Zach, we start off this week on a Monday with some interesting NFL draft reports that come out via Daniel Jeremiah, but also confirmed by us and Buck Rising at A to Z Sports. So, late of last week, we had some texts and conversations with Buck, and Buck was hearing from some people that he knows around the NFL. The Titans were exploring, sniffing around what it would take and looking into moving up to the third overall pick in the NFL draft that happens later this month, now that we are in April. And then we see this from Daniel Jeremiah on the Move the Sticks podcast with Bucky Brooks from NFL.com, discussing their latest mock draft, where they had a side tangent about the number 3 overall pick after the Panthers at 1, the Texans at 3. Right now, Arizona currently at 3. And then you've got the Indianapolis Colts also looking for a quarterback at number 4. So let's hear from Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks from last week's Move the Sticks podcast.
At 3, do you believe when it's all said and done, and we neither one of us do trades at this point in time, that does Arizona make that pick?
They're open for business. Somebody jumps up there and they make a pick. It's not going to be the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I'll be shocked if the Arizona Cardinals take a player at the 3rd position.
Can I give you the team that I've been told to keep an eye on that's exploring this and looking into this? Again, this is just people around the league who said do not sleep on numero 11, the Tennessee Titans.
Ooh.
The 2 teams to keep an eye on were the trade-ups were the Raiders and the Titans. Don't sleep on. And then we talked about the Raiders a bunch. We've talked about maybe Seattle at 5. I haven't heard a lot of buzz about Tennessee at 11. That would be an interesting one.
Tennessee to 3. And so a couple of things we could talk about with the Tennessee Titans going up. New general manager, Rand Carthon, working with Mike Vrabel. If this was the move, it tells you everything that you need to know about how they felt about their 3rd-round pick, Malik Willis. If you didn't know, based on how they brought Josh Dobbs in, put him at the end of the season, and started him in a game that was to determine whether they're going to the playoffs, it tells you right there they are in the quarterback market, even though they have Ryan Tannehill.
So there is the Move the Six podcast clip from last week with Daniel Jeremiah saying he has heard the Titans exploring what it would take to move up from 11 to 3. As we all expect, the Panthers and Texans at 1 and 2 to go Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, or Bryce Young, one way or the other. And then the Colts at 4, looking for a quarterback of their future after, swinging and missing several years in a row after Andrew Luck's retirement on veteran quarterbacks. So, Zach, there's a lot there, but Daniel Jeremiah saying numero 11, which is kind of weird, of the Titans moving up to 3 and being in that interest. And again, goes along with what Buck was hearing from some people in his NFL circles last week about the Titans potentially being involved. And I know Buck was working on that more towards the end of last week and was able to confirm that with also the Daniel Jeremiah conversation right there. So your initial thoughts on what you heard right there about the Titans and potentially Rand Carthon making some moves?
Well, first and foremost, it makes sense that Arizona wants to get out of 3, and they're in a unique situation. They've got a new head coach, they've got a new general manager, and their franchise quarterback, Kyler Murray, who they paid a lot of money and have had some trouble with, tore his ACL in the middle of the season, actually towards the end of the season. So the rehab on that for a running quarterback like Murray is going to take a little bit longer, but they have so much money tied up in that quarterback that they have value to trade out and get future picks. And because you've kind of started over, Cliff Kingsbury is no longer there, and Monty Austinfort, who was formerly with the Tennessee Titans, who interviewed for the Tennessee Titans general manager job, has ties to the Tennessee Titans, who is now the general manager of the Arizona Cardinals. So you have more of a, let's call it a rebuild or a longer play in Arizona instead of winning now in the NFC West. And the Titans, they have a new general manager, but they've got a head coach that loves to win and knows how to win. And that's what he has always wanted to do, is win, win, win. They haven't given up Derrick Henry. They haven't given up Ryan Tannehill. They haven't gone to get a lot of offensive firepower on the wide receiver group, but they've helped their offensive line, and they haven't done anything with Jeffrey Simmons yet. So all of those storylines, I do think, make sense to the report. Arizona moving out and Tennessee not trying to completely, a traditional rebuild is you cut bait with everybody. You start over a la the Houston Texans. Now they did that for numerous years. The Indianapolis Colts, as we see, they're right on the horizon. We'll talk about them later on in the show. And Carolina has already made their move to move up. So like a lot of things have hashed out in the NFL draft at the end of this month. But I do think this report makes a lot of logical sense. And we hear Daniel Jeremiah saying this. We hear Buck confirming this. It aligns with what we're hearing, and it aligns with what makes sense if the Titans are ready to trade up and go get their future franchise quarterback.
Yeah, and so again, Daniel Jeremiah is saying what he's been hearing from people around the league is that don't sleep on the Titans to move up from 11 to 3. And Buck heard some things and was telling Zach and I last week kind of along the same things of, hey, the Titans could be one of those teams looking to move ahead of the Colts at 4. That's the interesting thing in how Week 18 played out for the draft order of the Texans not getting the number 1 pick. So you had teams at 2 and 4 needing quarterbacks and teams at 1 and 3 ahead of those two teams not needing a quarterback where movement could happen. So what would it take? Let's go through what a potential move from 11 to 3 would take, and then we'll get all of you guys involved and ask you directly your opinion about this report coming out of Daniel Jeremiah and with Buck Rising. So just a couple drafts ago, Zach, Rand Carthon was a part of a move up to the 3rd overall draft pick from 12. So just one spot behind where the Titans are currently at 11. And they went and got Trey Lance. And we've seen that that's kind of been on hold. But here's how that went. The Niners move up from 12 to 3 to get Trey Lance. The Miami Dolphins moved back from 3 to 12. Then they got a 1st-round pick in 2022, a 3rd-round pick in 2022, and then a 1st-round pick this upcoming year. So that's 2 future firsts after the first pick swap and a future 3rd to go up from 12 to 3. So you'd have to expect it would be somewhat comparable from 11 to 3 and 12 to 3. And Rand Carthon had to have been at some level a part of the conversations that year as he was the director of pro personnel and player personnel with the Niners during that time. So that is the trade compensation from a couple of years ago. So Zach, let's dive in and get the people's opinion on this morning. It's a pretty simple question. Are you in or out on the idea of the Titans trading up to 3 overall? Are you in or out on the idea of the Titans trading up to number 3 overall in the NFL draft? But first, let me tell you guys about the Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Whenever you get hurt in life, you have to know who you can go to and who you can trust to get you back on the right path to health. And they've got you covered right there in Franklin in their state-of-the-art facility where you can do everything right there in Bone and Joint Institute's main campus with their incredible facility. They just turned 5 years old in March. They also just opened up a new location for their clinic, and that is in West Franklin. So now you can hit them up in their main Franklin location, also West Franklin, Nolensville, Brentwood, and in Thompson Station, or check them out and book your appointment at boneandjointtn.org.
A to Z Sports. We're also powered by BetMGM. Download the app today. Use the bonus code ATOZ Sports. That's ATOZ SPORTS. They got you hooked up for new users. When you use BetMGM, use that bonus code, and your first bet, you get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. That's good insurance for new users. So use that bonus code ATOZ Sports and download the app today.
A to Z Sports here live. We were asking you guys on this Monday, are you in or out on the idea of the Titans trading up to the 3rd overall draft pick? Daniel Jeremiah said that the team to watch that's exploring, a team to keep an eye on that's exploring the move up to swap with the Cardinals at 3 is number 11, the Tennessee Titans. Also, he mentioned the Raiders there as well. We would think for a quarterback. So, Zach, I'll send you to the chat. Are you in or out on the idea of the Titans moving up from 11 to 3 to go after one of these quarterbacks?
Let's get through some lunch money and jackpot bucks real quick. Vandy Fan says they'd have to give up 11 and at least 2 more firsts. That's a lot for anyone not named Stroud or Young. And Vandy Fan actually said that before we put up the graphic,
right,
kind of outlining what the 49ers did to get Trey Lance a handful of years ago back. And Noah brings some jackpot bucks. Titans trading up would be twofold: getting a quarterback for a new direction for the franchise, blocking the Colts also from getting a quarterback. I don't know necessarily it would be completely blocking, because there is 4 first-round type quarterbacks in this draft. We don't know how it shakes out. Everybody thought Malik Willis was going to be a first-round quarterback for most of the spring heading into last year's draft, and he fell to the 3rd round. Can't have Deshaun or Luck situation again with AR and BY in the conference. And also had another one with Kane coming in there. Obviously, the Titans would be linked to this rumor. What quarterback haven't they been linked to this offseason? Unless the organization has made it public, this offseason has been full BS. Rather hear facts. What do you think about Kane's?
Well, I mean, Kane says he would rather hear facts. I mean, do you guys not want the media to start sniffing around and try to talk to people to find out what these things are? I mean, you can't hear a fact about the NFL draft until the team has made the pick. Like, that's the only time you can hear a fact about the NFL draft and what somebody might or might not be interested in. So I do think the Titans fit that as a whole. Do you want to go back to some of the others in or out?
Yeah, I was just going to get you to respond there. Are you in or out on the idea of the Titans trading up on the 3rd overall pick, as reported by Daniel Jeremiah and confirmed by our Buck Rising of A to Z Sports? Eric says out. So does Richter. Out from Steven. Jabu says out. Ed Rogers says out. William Young is in. Eddie is in. Steven is out, along with Mr. Jones. Also Major Keys. Also Dustin. Nick is also out. Wilbur is super out. Jared is all caps OUT out. Way out from Greg. Eugene says out. Gary is in. Colby is out. Baldwin Bearded is out. Chandler says he's in. Mitchell is out. Let's see. CPL is out. Cioto is out. Lamar is the only one from Jimbo, as we know Jimbo's love section with Lamar. And Lamar, that's a whole nother discussion that you guys probably had last week. All right, Den is out. In, go get Stroud. I don't think Stroud's going to be there, John. I mean, nobody knows what's going to happen in the draft, but assumptions say that Stroud's not going to get past the Panthers, who drafted or traded up to have the number 1 overall selection, and the Texans, who have been tanking for the last 600 plus days to get that number 2 pick. And they kind of, they let their defense get away from them against Indianapolis for that to get them into the number 2 slot. Mm-hmm. So honestly, I'm a little, I'd say, surprised. Christopher, Clayton, Guy, Billy, Big Ten Jeff, Roy, Mr. Tighten Up, Mark, all these guys are out on this. Austin, are you in or are you out?
Well, I do have Brad Holcomb comes in and says that he trusts Rand Carthon's scouting. And that's, what Rand Carthon has built his reputation on, is his ability to scout other players. So Zach, I am out on the Titans doing this. And I said this last week. And I've said this about Lamar Jackson. I am in on the Titans potentially going after Lamar Jackson after this draft. I did say last week that I think if the Titans are willing to gamble with the quarterback position, it would make more sense, and it is more of a Titans move to gamble with trading up from 11 to 3 than gamble on Lamar Jackson with a potential $85 million signing bonus that Sam and I talked about on Thursday or Friday, whichever day that particularly was. So, I think it makes sense of why we're hearing the Titans involved. I am out on this because of what all they would have to give up. I'll throw up the graphic again. That is what the 49ers had to give up to go get Trey Lance from 12 to 3 2 drafts ago. And I'm not taking Trey Lance and what he has or hasn't done in the NFL into account here, right? You have to look at Trey Lance and just the overall situation. You had quarterbacks go 1 and 2 with Trevor Lawrence, and then also with Zach Wilson to the Jags and Jets. And then the Niners moved up to get Lance. So it kind of feels very similar there. But I also think if you're giving up 3 first-round picks, the pick swap, and then 2 future first-round picks, and then maybe a little bit more, I just don't think that's the right way for the Titans to build this franchise right now. That you're just giving up so much because you only have 6 picks in this draft. You don't have a 5th-round pick, and you get 1 pick in the other rounds. And you already know you have a bunch of holes in this roster you have to fill. It was not a very good roster for who took the field over the last month and a half of the season last year. And so you need to go get cheaper. Is Jeffrey Simmons involved in a move like this? Monty Austin is also a key thing in here too, right? You mentioned that of him knowing the Titans roster, knowing Jeffrey Simmons, and do they want, if they're going to trade out of 3 and miss out on Jalen Carter or Will Anderson, do they want Jeffrey Simmons to go along with that trade because they can't get a bona fide defensive stud at 11 overall? How does that impact things? If you're a Titans fan, do you give up Jeffrey Simmons for one of these picks? I just think I'm out on this because I am also not sold on Will Levis or Anthony Richardson long term. And then also, what does that mean for Ryan Tannehill? Do you keep Tannehill for one more year while you have to groom this quarterback? And then what's Malik Willis's role in all this? So I'm out on it. I just think it's too big of a jump when you still have a lot of uncertainty in a lot of other areas for the Titans.
All right. Well, let me ask you this before I answer.
Yeah.
Then what are you going to do? What does the future of your franchise look like if you don't do this? Because Ryan Tannehill is still on the roster. Mm-hmm. Derrick Henry is still on the roster. You've cleared some cap space earlier in the offseason. We know that. And I will add to this, Jeffrey Simmons cannot be a part of the number 3 overall pick. Jeffrey Simmons can be probably maybe a part of the number 1 overall pick if that was, talked about. Right. But you cannot trade Jeffrey Simmons a part of this package. You're going to have to give up future picks, kind of like the 49ers did. So, Austin, if you are out on this, what are you doing for the future? What are you telling your fans?
Yeah, well, Ronnie says, so in other words, Austin, you're saying that Tennessee is stuck in quarterback purgatory then. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that, and you missed
your actions are, though.
Well, no, Zach, you weren't on a show for the last 5 days last week, right? And so I had a lot of things to say about the quarterback position over those shows where you were traveling. So that's just because I'm out on 3
doesn't say it.
That's what I'm getting to. But I would rather go after Lamar Jackson post-draft or stick with Ryan Tannehill for 1 year. I would rather
do next year. So if you go for Lamar, you know the amount of money that you're going to have to give up the same amount of picks, and you're going to have to pay the man $200+ million.
Right, but I also believe more in Lamar Jackson's future than I do about Will Levis or Anthony Richardson. I don't necessarily yes, Lamar Jackson won an MVP. Lamar Jackson was
what has he done the last 2 seasons?
But look at what Anthony Richardson has done the last 2 seasons. Look at what Will Levis has done.
But you're not paying him $200 million.
Zach, I know that. But I'm just telling you what I would rather do. I would rather go after somebody that I've seen win and do well in the NFL. Lamar Jackson's got one of the highest winning percentages in the NFL of any quarterback in the last 4 years. Yeah, I know he's missed games the last 2 years with injuries. But I would rather do that.
Didn't you say Lamar was going to be a bust years ago?
I had doubts about it, but
it's the same thing. You're having doubts about Levis and Richardson, but now all of a sudden on back-to-back years that Lamar Jackson has ruined his franchise's season because he has not been able to stay healthy, you want to trade 2 first-round picks and you want to pay him guaranteed money plus $200 million.
All right. Again, I went through all of this on Thursday.
You're wanting to do that, correct?
I would rather do that than trade up from 11 to 3 to get Levis or Richardson. Yes, I would rather do that because what do you do with Lamar Jackson? This was my biggest pitch last Thursday when Sam and I talked about this. If you get Lamar Jackson, you have a former MVP. Yeah, it was 3 seasons ago, but he's a former MVP.
He done more recently?
Hold on, I'm still talking, Zach. He's a former MVP. He has proven that he can win in the NFL over 4+ years, and he also gives you a path to your new stadium you're building. You get to the ability to build around what you're doing with this roster and Lamar Jackson over the next 4 years. I like that, a playmaker, a star at the quarterback position, and building around him. In my scenario here, I'm also keeping the 11th overall pick. I'm trading away 24 and 25's first-round draft pick, where Lamar should have you picking in the 20s because he's winning a lot of games in the NFL. He has done that in the first 5 years of his NFL career. So that's where I would rather go after Lamar Jackson after this draft than trade up for Levis or Richardson at 3. I would also rather keep Ryan Tannehill for another year than give up all of this for Will Levis or Anthony Richardson at 3. I just don't think the gamble of up 8 spots is worth the 2 quarterbacks that you have the opportunity to take at number 3. I'd rather keep Tannehill, buy a year, see if you can compete. You've got Tannehill and Henry under contract for the year. You got a good defense. Jeffrey Simmons is still under contract for the 5th-year option, so you don't have to do anything.
He's not playing. No, he's not playing, Austin. So
there's
he's
my
not
answer,
going to
Zach.
play this year
So
under the current structure of his contract.
So
don't be naive there.
Okay, so there's my 2 other options that I'd prefer are sticking with Tannehill, going after Lamar after the draft. I'd rather do both of those things than give up a lot to go from 11 to 3.
Yeah, in that plan, you have over $1 billion in stadium and quarterback money and no first-round picks over the next 2 years when you open your stadium. I think that's a dumb plan, to be honest. I think that does not make any sense.
I mean,
and you're spending a ton of money on an unproven commodity over the last couple of seasons who has no agent, and I think is troubling, to be honest. I stay away from, I think, buyer beware for Lamar Jackson. Buyer beware. Because you got screwed, the market got screwed from Deshaun Watson, and Lamar is trying to take advantage of that. I don't think that the Titans will get Lamar Jackson, to be honest. I'm
not going to bet on it. It would be a ridiculous bet. It would be such long odds.
So then without that, you're just going to, I don't want to say stick and pick at 11, but maybe you could trade down, whatever, not trade to the number 3 pick. And then you're sitting there again, still in purgatory. You're a good football team that is not going to be picking this high, presumably, if Tannehill and Derrick Henry, they've proven that they can win enough games to not pick at this spot. So you're screwed. That's why I'm out on that. Okay, so I am in on the idea of what this represents, though, because at least, Austin, the Titans are telling the fan base and their ticket holders that they're trying. They have a plan. And I will give you the number one reason why I am more in on this plan than the other options. Okay. Look, I'm not in love with Anthony Richardson and in love with Will Levis, but maybe Rand Carthon and Mike Vrabel are. And that's all that matters. Doesn't matter what you think, doesn't matter what I think. If they are in love with one of those 2 quarterbacks, then they can justify it. So I'm going to tell you my number one thought process behind why I'm in. You're out. The majority of the chat is out. But I will say one reasoning behind it. But first, I'm going to tell everybody about our great sponsor. That is Farnborough Health Plans. FBHP.com is where to go to get your health plan. I got my new health plan in 2022. I rolled that over to 2023. Health, dental, vision, 200 plus locations across the state. Farnborough Health Plans of Tennessee has helped me get a quote today by taking a health assessment. It's really easy. You take a health assessment, takes 20 to 30 minutes. Then you get a quote and you realize, wow, I've got a much better health plan that they are offering me than you currently do. And you can have it for your individual. If you got a wife and kids, you got Philip River number of kids, it doesn't matter. They've got a plan for you. That's FBHP.com/ATOZ.
Also, don't forget with the BetMGM app, not only can you win using our bonus code ATOZ Sports, because that gives you up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses when you sign up, but you can also win money and continue to gain more bonus bets when you already sign up for BetMGM. That's from the Refer a Friend program with BetMGM. What you do is you log into your BetMGM app, you go to the Refer a Friend invitation, and you can send that invitation out to as many as 20 friends to have them sign up, and you get $50 in bonus bets for every friend that signs up with your invitation, and then they get $50 in bonus bets when they sign up with BetMGM from your invitation too. It's a great way to spread the love. It's always fun to do your sports betting in numbers. So do it in numbers with BetMGM with your Refer a Friend invitation. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 or older, Tennessee only. New and existing customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification and other requirements. Rewards issued with knowledgeable bonus bets. Bonus bets expire 7 days. And for problem gambling support, call Tennessee Redline 800-889-9789. So Zach, we're discussing the conversation and the reports that we had at A to Z Sports.com yesterday, last night. Buck Rising confirming what Daniel Jeremiah said, that the Titans exploring and a team to not sleep on, to keep an eye on, to move up from 11 to 3. I'm out on it. Most of the chat is out on it. You say you're in on it. What's the biggest reason why you're in on the Titans making this move potentially?
Anthony Richardson and Will Levis are developmental quarterbacks. This gives you the ability to develop said quarterback. It gets you a franchise quarterback for the future. Nothing is a guarantee. Bryce Young may suck. Who knows? CJ Stroud may be, awful. We have no idea. That's why you draft quarterbacks. The Panthers and the Texans don't have the luxury of sitting these guys. They got to play. The Texans, they got to play, right? I mean, Bryce Young and CJ Stroud have to play. The Titans, with the situation they're in, they've got Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill in the final year of their deal, right? This gives you the ability to draft whatever quarterback you like. Look, I know Rand Carthon went to Florida. Maybe it's Anthony Richardson, right? Maybe he has an affinity for him. Maybe it's Will Levis's quick release. I have no idea. And I don't think in this particular conversation it matters, because Vrabel and Rand Carthon are going to figure it out. They're going to pick the guy if, in fact, they draft up. But Austin, you save $1 billion compared to what your deal is.
No, you don't save $1 billion.
You save $200+ million, and you set your franchise up for what on how you build a franchise. You draft a quarterback. You try to do as much as you can with that drafted quarterback, and then you sign him to a big deal. We've seen the Eagles do it. We've seen the Chiefs do it. We are about to see the Bengals do it. They have drafted quarterbacks, and they've worked out. Then you sign them to a big deal. You're taking a major risk that is, the cost is way too much for Lamar Jackson. And if you don't do the Lamar deal, which is probably not, that's probably not going to happen anyway, what are you left with next year?
What are you left with next year?
Yeah.
If you don't do, then you're in the situation where you're looking for a quarterback, and there's going to be.
Yeah, but where are you probably picking?
In the teens again?
Not most the 11s.
I mean, in most likely
11 is not a teen.
I mean, it is. Man, you've been just factually. 11 is a teen, and $200 million is very different from $1 billion that you're saving. So,
you want the franchise to spend $1 billion and give up 2 first-round picks.
Yeah, because you're getting a proven commodity at the quarterback position who's a playmaker who can change your team that you can plan around.
The last 2 years, has he been a proven commodity?
Yes, he's gotten hurt. Absolutely. And that's a problem.
Isn't that his issue? That's what you said on this show when Lamar Jackson was drafted.
It is an issue, yeah. But
no, that is his
when he got
issue.
Drafted?
That is the singular issue of Lamar Jackson.
Zach, whatever I said about Lamar Jackson when he got drafted is irrelevant because it was so long ago. Like, the guy's played 5 years in the league. It's irrelevant.
Well, 3 years ago is a long time ago.
Yeah, I know, but the guy's still, over the last 4 years, the guy has, I think it's the second or third highest win percentage in the NFL as a starting quarterback, with Mahomes being the one that's right above him, right? He's above Josh Allen. He's above your guy Tom Brady when it comes to win percentage in the NFL as a starting quarterback. He knows how to win games. My whole idea is that I am not giving up this year's 11 to go get a guy who's a developmental quarterback. You say he's a developmental quarterback, he doesn't have to play.
He doesn't.
Right. So you're keeping Ryan Tannehill and paying him $27 million in base salary, counting him $36 million against the cap. And you're going to have Anthony Richardson or Will Levis and giving up all these first round draft picks. I think if you're making this move from 11 to 3, Ryan Tannehill's gone post June 1st. I don't think that's how that works. I think if you're making this move from 11 to 3 and you're giving up 2 first round draft picks, you got to go get your number 3rd overall pick quarterback who might be a long-term project, but you got to go get him guys he can throw to. And you don't have any money to go get him guys he can throw to.
That's what next year is for.
Oh, so this year's is just, you're sucking you're just taking $27 million that you're paying Ryan Tannehill's base salary and just
what have they been doing with Bud Dupree the last 2 years?
That's what they cut him, Zach. That's why they cut him. They cut him when his cap hit got to $20 million.
Right. This is the last year of Ryan Tannehill's deal. They are going to. I expect Ryan Tannehill to. Enough moves have been made. Ryan Tannehill right now, I expect to start week 1.
I mean, yeah, because he's on the roster. Like Zach, those betting odds would be like minus 800. Like, of course.
And even if they drafted and traded up for the number 3 overall pick, do you still think that Ryan Tannehill would be the starter?
I think the odds changed drastically. I still think he would be the favorite to start.
You do this to develop the quarterback.
Yeah, but I also understand that if you're gonna give up all of this, which is essentially 2 future firsts and the 11th,
it's all coming off the books at the end of the year.
Right, but why pay him $27 million to just buy you another year?
Develop the quarterback that you just drafted.
I do think if you're gonna move up from 11 to 3, you're going to need to play him sooner rather than later.
They're developmental quarterbacks, both of them. Richardson
is way more developmental than Will Levis.
Both are.
I mean, every quarterback, Zach, now is a developmental.
This is a unique draft. There are four quarterbacks. 2 are presumed to be day 1 starters. 2 are presumed to be developmental quarterbacks. I mean, we all know this. This is the plan. This would make the most sense.
No, 2 teams are going to start their quarterbacks week 1. The Panthers and the Texans, regardless of who they take. 2 teams are going to start those guys. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who they take. 2 teams are going to start those guys. Yeah.
This is the best case scenario if you're the Titans to be able to develop.
I just think you're spending $27 million in
you're
1 year.
You're spending $1 billion.
Zach, why do you keep throwing, like, they're going to spend $800 million on the stadium anyway? I mean, why are you holding that against me?
Because you're wanting to spend another additional $200 million plus and guarantee that and give up 2 first-round picks anyway. I think your plan is irrational, to be honest. You may disagree with my plan, which is okay, but what you're trying to do to give up to get a guy who's been hurt the last 2 years, I think makes no sense.
I don't think it would be smart for the Titans to move up from 11 to 3 to get Will Levis or Anthony Richardson.
If they loved one of those 2 guys,
that's everybody. I kind of feel like if they love this guy, needs to be removed from draft conversation analysis, because obviously, if you love somebody, you're going to move up to go get them and do it. But
then why would they flirt with this idea then?
Do they know?
To shake up the market? I mean, the report has been Daniel Jeremiah. We heard it earlier on in the show, and Buck confirmed it. Then why are they doing this? If they didn't love one of those 2 developmental prospect quarterbacks, I don't even think they're in this conversation. That's the point. That's why I said what I said.
Is it because the Colts are at 4 and you're trying to freak out Jim Irsay to give up something he didn't have to move up? I don't know, but I do think it's interesting that the Titans are involved in this. And again, I said this on Thursday. I'll repeat it to you now. The Titans, if they're going to gamble with the quarterback position, it is more of a Titans move to gamble by going from 11 to 3 than gamble on Lamar Jackson. I'm not an idiot.
Gamble on Lamar Jackson's dumb.
Yeah. Well, okay, thank you for calling my idea dumb. I think it helps them win faster.
I mean, a lot of people call your idea dumb. That's not.
Okay, thanks, bro. But I still think that is. I think the Titans should be involved and interested in Lamar Jackson after this year's draft, because then you would be able to have a path and a future on what you were looking towards, and you get to use the 11th overall pick this year to help build that.
All right, let me ask you this. How much, and you may have talked about this last week, but I haven't had a chance to ask you this. On the Lamar Jackson conversation, how much of an impact of him not having an agent plays a role into attaining Lamar Jackson for you if you're the Titans?
I just think it complicates everything, because you're going to have to negotiate whatever offer sheet with Lamar Jackson, or if you're going to initiate conversation with a trade, then you're going to have to talk to the player. And here's a breaking news. I'm kidding. Not breaking news. Every player, every athlete thinks they're worth more than what their market value usually says because they believe in themselves. That's an athlete's mindset. And so negotiating with an athlete is probably not very fun.
That's another deterrent on the $1 billion plan.
That's why like NHL teams they go to arbitration, and the team who wants to sign the player back has to pick apart and dump on the guy on why they're worth less than what the player thinks. It's never a good idea for a player to negotiate their own contract. That's why Lamar Jackson is an outlier in the situation. So of course it makes it more complicated.
So I'll ask you another question on Lamar, because I'm curious. I don't understand your philosophy behind it, especially with what you've said over the last several months based on Stan Kroenke and the amount of money he has versus Amy Adams Strunk and the amount of money that ownership group has, on top of $800 million being attributed to a new stadium to then go out and guarantee, because like 90%, if not all of this money is going to be guaranteed.
Not
at least what Lamar is going to ask for.
That's
right.
But that has been conflicted, that Lamar is not asking for that high of rate of guaranteed money like we initially thought earlier in the offseason process.
But does it make financial sense for an ownership group that is not the wealthiest of the 32 to go spend $200+ million on a quarterback and $800 million on a stadium within 5 years?
Because,
I'm asking.
Because you need the new stadium, right? So you got to have somebody to come watch. That's the thing. And we have no idea if Will Levis or Anthony Richardson is going to be worth anything.
You don't know if Lamar is either.
You know,
he may be hurt again.
Okay. All right. So we're going in circles here. Zach,
but does that make financial sense though?
Zach, I pointed out all these things Thursday about Lamar. And yeah, the biggest deterrent in the Titans going after Lamar Jackson is absolutely the cash aspect of this conversation. No doubt. That's why I think the Titans are more likely to move up than they are to go after Lamar. I think a better football decision is going after Lamar than trading up for Levis or Richardson. I just don't like Levis or Richardson that much long-term. I like Lamar Jackson more long-term.
Do you like them better if they sit behind a starter for a year?
Yeah, but I also
I also
know that the Titans have an opportunity to move away from Tannehill if they have an option to do so and save $27 million of cash this year.
Right, but that cash is justified to maintain winning, something that Rand and Mike Vrabel want to do, right? They've been clear about that. It develops the quarterback that you've just traded to get, and it delays the excitement, right? And fans will give not a lot, but a little bit more grace after a year of sitting. You get another year, and then the pressure really starts in year 3 instead of year 2. Correct? Yes. You've watched enough football. That is correct.
I think these fans, if the Titans move up to 3, these fans are going to pick apart every throw that Ryan Tannehill makes. Is either going to be, oh, well, he didn't mess up that time, or it's, if it goes badly, it's put in Richardson, put in Levis. That's how this fan base feels about Ryan Tannehill. All right, let's go ahead and get to some more super chats before we continue this conversation. Vandy fan comes back and said the Titans need O-line or wide receiver right now, in his opinion. Nathaniel says, happy to see you're still alive from the one chip challenge. I think the Titans like the top 3 quarterbacks as prospects, so the Titans might trade up. Andre says, if guys think 11 to 3 costs a lot, imagine what 19 to 24 would cost next year when the Titans win 7 to 9 games with Tannehill and Vrabel. The Titans will pay sooner rather than later. And then Kane comes back and says, with some jackpot bucks, I agree with Zach. Let's be honest. If the team stays healthy, this team will not be within striking range for a quarterback for years. This team is good enough to stay mediocre unless they believe in Malik Willis, which I don't think.
They've already shown us.
Yeah.
They don't believe in Willis.
Right. So any reaction to those super chats there?
I think that this is Rand has been active. Would you say? I mean, I think Rand has been active in his first year offseason as general manager, cutting a lot of premier players, talking about the rumors of possibly shopping Derrick Henry, asking Kevin Byard for a pay cut. Now these rumors coming out. I mean, there's a lot of things that have happened. They haven't been the DeAndre Hopkins type trades, nothing like that, but there's still a lot left, right? I mean, this is April 3rd. The draft is at the end of the month, and a lot can happen from now up until then. And as we know, on draft day, a lot even more can happen. I just think the time, if Rand believes that Levis or Richardson can be the guy that he wants to hitch his wagon to, and he wants to do it now, 11, you're going to get, and you also have to say, and I know this is a couple of years ago, the San Francisco 49ers traded up for Trey Lance and they were 12. They were not 11, right? And
one spot.
That is one slot is something. It's not nothing, right? And so maybe that there is some, and Monty Austin-Fort knows about the Titans, maybe more willing to do a deal with a knowledgeable franchise. I thought the Titans treated him well. He took another job because he got the opportunity in Arizona. So no hard feelings. The stars, if they do align, would make sense.
So here's what the Niners gave up. That 2022 third rounder was a compensatory pick. So it was towards the back end of the third round. So maybe the Titans, being one more spot ahead, would give up a fourth round pick instead of a late third round pick compensatory there. So real quick, Zach, you brought up, why else would the Titans do this? And I mentioned briefly, maybe the Colts. So other teams that could be in the hunt for this to trade up the third overall pick, because I think one thing that Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks were both aligned on is that there is no reason for the Arizona Cardinals to pick at number 3. If you've got a team behind them who wants a quarterback, and quarterbacks are probably going to go 1 and 2, then who else could jump up above the Colts at 4 to go get one of these quarterbacks? And Jeremiah mentioned the Titans and the Raiders, so also potentially in the hunt for that third overall pick could be the Colts themselves, right? To make sure they can guarantee who they want as their quarterback and not get scooped and have one of their guys stolen from them. He's stuck with the last of the 4 options potentially. And even the Washington Commanders, because they pick right now 16th, and they have a pretty solid football team. That defense is great. They've added a lot of weapons to their offense, and they're just missing a quarterback, right? So maybe even the Commanders at 16 could be a part of that. So Zach, what are your thoughts on the other potential options for who that third pick could go to?
Weird to say this out loud, but the Commanders are a quarterback away from being really good.
Yeah.
I mean, they have more weapons than the Titans, and I think that they have probably a comparable defense.
Yeah, the Washington's defensive front's really talented.
Really good. You got Chase Young and 2 very highly paid defensive tackles. And then they drafted last year Dotson. And then they also have Terry McLaurin, who they didn't trade away like the Titans did A.J. Brown.
Mm-hmm.
So the Commanders weirdly are more ready to win than the Titans, structured differently. But
and they're also in a division that's very, very, very competitive, with the Eagles, the Cowboys, and the Giants all being playoff teams from a year ago.
I think you brought up the fact of is this just a ploy to start scaring the Colts? Another storyline is you take possibly who the Colts want away.
Yeah.
And that's generational. Let's just say 5 years. I won't say generational. If it hits, it's generational. But Austin, another argument on why I would be in more than out on trading up for the third overall pick is just that. You get the pick of the litter instead of your divisional rival.
That could be it. Yeah. But again,
there's value in that. That's a cherry.
I understand.
Right
Zach, I understand. I'm basing my opinion on also about this potential trade or the Titans' idea of moving from 11 to 3 on how I also feel about Will Levis and Anthony Richardson. I don't think those guys are generational talents at quarterback. I think they're probably okay. I think they're more like they're going to start, on their rookie contract, and are they going to earn a second contract as a starter? I'd say more likely no. They might just be the bounce around the NFL as a bridge quarterback option that, Baker Mayfield's it or Sam Darnold's or Marcus Mariota's it for the rest of their lives. Jameis Winston, right? Like, I feel like I believe there would be more like that than a guy who earns a second deal from the team that drafted him and becomes a generational starter for 10 plus years.
I understand. We know your backup plan is the Lamar thing, but I don't think that the Titans after that have a backup.
Well, it's Tannehill. It's just Tannehill for a year and you kick the can because.
But you kick the can and you know what's going up next offseason. You're not going to be in 11 probably.
And so you have a clean slate. But again, we don't know right now on April 3rd, we don't know which quarterbacks are going to be available March 3rd of 2024. And we do know this. There will be quarterbacks available.
Like who?
I don't know. Every year, you never know. You never know who those guys are going to be. I don't think
you kind of do. And what we've seen over the last several years is like Stafford was moved because he was in a dead end row in Detroit. Tom was moved because he left New England. Aaron is on his way out because we've known that. I don't see that storyline on the horizon next year. I mean, go through the teams. I don't see something. I mean, granted, there could be a disgruntled quarterback, but
I have no idea.
There's not a pick of the litter.
And again, Chris Stress brings up, no one saw Derek Carr hitting the market this year, a year before, right? Like that wasn't a thought. Like they just traded for Devontae Adams, his college roommate. You never thought that it would be the last year of Derek Carr.
You don't want Derek Carr.
That's not the point, Zach. The point is you don't know who's going to be available a year from now.
But what you're trying to replace Tannehill. You can't replace Tannehill with sans Tannehill, like Garoppolo, like Carr. That's the point, is if you're going to kick the can, you got to stop. You don't have the luxury. You're not going from terrible quarterback. You're going from good quarterback. Not great quarterback, but good. That's why I'm saying there's not going to be a better quarterback out there next year than Ryan Tannehill. There may be a comparable quarterback to Tannehill.
Here's the answer. There'll be a cheaper quarterback than Ryan Tannehill.
You know what's a cheaper quarterback? A rookie quarterback.
Yeah, but you're basically paying, 2 other future first-round draft picks for that too.
You're doing the same with Lamar if you go that route.
I understand.
And you don't have an option next year. I just don't think that the Titans, we don't know how the season plays out, but presumably, based on history, Tannehill and Derrick Henry are not going to have you picking at 11.
Yeah. No, and it's funny.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Here's the reality. Here's the real. A healthy Ryan Tannehill doesn't have you picking at 11. Derrick Henry be damned. A healthy Ryan Tannehill doesn't have you picking at 11. The only thing that changed from 2021 to 2022 was the opposite got hurt. Derrick Henry got hurt. Ryan Tannehill helped you go 6-3 and helped you get the number 1 seed, right? You lost in the playoffs. Yep, sure. But you picked 26th in that slot. Ryan Tannehill gets hurt. Derrick Henry stays healthy. You pick 11th. A healthy Ryan Tannehill doesn't have you pick 11th.
Well, 2 things. Ryan Tannehill doesn't have, at least with the Titans, that history of injury. Last year, he was injured, but that's not his bag. The other thing is they've put resources into helping the offensive line. So Dennis Daly ain't going to be trotting out there to give up a Khalil Mack ankle breaker.
Sure, but Andre Dillard might be your starting left tackle who has less career starts than Dennis Daly had last year. So, boom. I mean, that's what your upgrade is, which is
but everybody's going to be better than Dennis Daly.
Again, but Andre Dillard, could absolutely still get your quarterback hurt because he's only started 9 games in his entire career.
Yeah, and wouldn't you rather have a 3rd overall pick as a developmental quarterback as a backup? Sounds better. Sounds like a better plan for the future to me.
I just think if the Titans move from 11 to 3 to get a quarterback, Ryan Tannehill's gone after June 1st. That's just $27 million that you can save to go get something else to help out that rookie quarterback. That's what I think there.
You help the rookie quarterback the following season.
That's fine. A to Z Sports here live on this Monday. Zach, let's go ahead and get to Ask Me Anything to wrap up the show. But first, let me tell you guys about our friends. Oh, you can tell everybody about our friends at Wilson County Hyundai.
Yeah, Wilson County Hyundai is where you need to go to get your next ride, including the all-new Palisade. The Palisade is sleek, full-size SUV, third-row seating, all the bells and whistles, the perfect family car. It's not your mama's minivan. It is an upgrade. And you've got the Sonata, which I absolutely love, the four-door sedan, the Elantra. You've got the Tucson and the Santa Fe, which is a little bit smaller of an SUV. It's not like the full-size SUV like the Palisade, and the Ioniq, which is battery-powered. So all of their cars are fuel efficient. And then the Ioniq, which I've seen more and more on the road, that's battery powered, baby, right? So you're helping the environment and you're getting from point A to point B. Start from point A, your house, go to point B, Wilson County Hyundai, out quick trip down I-40 exit 236, and take a test drive today.
Also with BetMGM, you can win big with our code ATOZ Sports. That gives you up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. So sign up with the BetMGM app. That is code ATOZ Sports for your first bet to get back up to $1,000 in bonus bets if your first bet misses. Zach, it is now time this morning to get to our Ask Me Anything. What you got in store for us today?
So over the weekend, Friday and yesterday, I think that women's basketball was at the forefront of the sporting world. And I will say, I watched every single, this is crazy, and I'd never done this before, every single second of all Final Four games, the two semifinals and the national championship, and it was electric. It was enjoyable to watch because you had so many storylines. So
on the women's side.
Yeah, on the women's side. Well, and look, San Diego State hitting that buzzer beater was pretty awesome. Right. But on the women's side of things, you had Caitlin Clark, you had LSU, you had the LSU Kim Balke's jacket, which is a storyline in itself. And then you had yesterday the John Cena "You Can't See Me" storyline. So what happened is Caitlin Clark, who dropped 41 and 41, and then they lost yesterday as LSU won the national championship. But Caitlin Clark dropped 41 on Louisville and did a "You Can't See Me" hand gesture to Louisville. Then you saw South Carolina, the 36-0 team, get beat by Iowa. Caitlin Clark drops 41 and doesn't guard the perimeter players and dares them to shoot. Apparently, LSU took offense to that. So my Ask Me Anything is fair or foul. Angel Reese of LSU yesterday taunting Caitlin Clark with the "You Can't See Me" gesture, and then points at her ring because she just won the national championship, after Caitlin Clark had done that previously to Louisville a few games before. There's 20 seconds left. It's a blowout. Sportsmanship is thrown out, and Angel Reese comes in, starts taunting Caitlin Clark. Fair or foul in the chat? I've kind of told you the story, so you can now, Austin, if you followed the story, if you didn't, now you can kind of form an opinion on what happened.
Yeah, well, I watched the second half of the Iowa South Carolina game. I did not watch anything live yesterday in the national title, but so Caitlin Clark is phenomenal and must watch TV when she's going like that. Brad says fair. Kayan says fair. Jibo says fair AF. Clayton says absolutely fair. That's sports. Matthew saying fair. If you don't like it, don't do it. Dumb question. Eric says absolutely fair. Chris says fair. You got to be able to take what you dish out. Sean says fair. Steven fair. Then you got Jeff Rubel saying foul. Angel Reese stalked Caitlin Clark for 15 seconds and then talked more post game.
It was more than what Caitlin Clark did. I would agree with Big Ten Jeff.
So
in that,
there is a difference between the two because Caitlin Clark did the motion towards her own bench, right? She was doing it with her teammates, and Angel Reese was doing it while following Caitlin Clark on the court for a long time.
Yeah, doing this.
I still think it's fair. It's weird. And a little bit of like strange behavior and caught up in the moment behavior, but it's not foul. Like if that's how if Caitlin Clark, who has been the talk of the sport, basketball, talk of the sport for about like the last 2 weeks, and then your team just dominated them and blew them out in the national title game and put up 100. Yeah, it's fair. I just thought it was also strange. I thought it was a little too obsessive on Caitlin Clark, rather than her team just win the national championship. It was strange.
Because Caitlin Clark was bigger. That's what you're kind of insinuating, which I agree with.
Yeah. Showing Caitlin Clark was bigger than the national title.
Was bigger because she was the biggest thing in sport. There's nothing else going on. It's not the NBA playoff push. It's not the NHL. It's not NFL. It is Caitlin Clark. For a span of, let's say, 5 days, Caitlin Clark dropping 41, beating the, perennial, unbelievable South Carolina team that, and Caitlin Clark was the story on that. So what I think happened, Austin, and I agree with you, it is fair because I understand why. If I didn't understand why, I think it's probably more foul because of the way that she obsessed over it. But I think it's more fair because Caitlin Clark had stolen, in a good way, I want to say this, stolen the show away from all the other individual women athletes playing in the tournament. Now, I think that was it. It helped the women's sports as a whole, which I think that is greater than anything else. But once you beat the beast, that's where I think that her emotions, and I think LSU, that's how they play. They are fueled by their emotions. If you watch that game from start to finish, and they had a player come off the bench and knock down, she had 21 points.
Yeah.
She was drained. She was 6 for 6 on 3. She actually, I think, was 7 for 7 because she hit a final 3 at the buzzer that banked in at the end of the second quarter. So I think it is fair. It is weird. But LSU, I think learning a little bit more about how LSU played, it makes more sense to me.
Yeah. So we both say it's fair, but strange. And then here, let's just throw some quick shade on Mr. Jones, who says Zach was the one person who watched the game. Mr. Jones, you might have been the one guy not watching the game, because I don't know if you saw this that came out Friday night's Final Four game in the women's Final Four between South Carolina and Iowa was the most watched college basketball game, men or women, on ESPN's networks that includes ABC since a 2009 matchup between Duke and North Carolina. I'll say it one more time. It was the most watched game and had more viewers of any college basketball game on ESPN or ABC since 2009. So, get with it. Like, if you're going to still dump on the women's game not getting eyeballs, then you're just flat out wrong.
More people watch that game than the NBA All-Star game. So, Mr. Jones, you can take your crap and shove it where the sun don't shine, because you're not educated.
Yeah,
you're not educated.
Watch that game, then
get educated.
Yeah,
you can diss on it. I don't care. I that bothers me none. But the fact is that time and time again, Mr. Jones comes in the chat and he's an idiot. He's uneducated.
No,
and so you're arguing. Yeah, you call BS. That's why you're stupid, bud. And I'm just calling it like I see it, because it's not just today. Mr. Jones has had a path of this, of calling out. You talk about lies. You're the one spreading lies because you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah, Mr. Jones is the conspiracy theorist when it comes to literally anything and everything. The NFL's rigged. ESPN's sending out fake numbers about Friday night's women's Final Four game. Everything is a conspiracy theory for Mr. Jones.
He needs to be better. That's all. If you love sports, it shouldn't matter if it's men or women, or it doesn't matter. When it's a great sporting event, like Iowa, South Carolina was a great game because you had the Steph Curry of women's basketball going up against, here's the throwback. South Carolina's team was kind of like the Lakers in 2006. They had all of the stars, and one person beat them, and it was great. It was a great spectacle. That's what I would say.
It was pretty phenomenal. A to Z Sports here live on this Monday. Once again, we'll talk more about Will Levis or Anthony Richardson based off of the A to Z Sports confirmed report the Titans are exploring and looking into moving up from the 11 to the 3rd overall pick. We'll see you guys tomorrow on a Tuesday. Before you head out, make sure you like the show before you go. I guarantee there are more people watching right now than people who have liked the show on Facebook or YouTube. So do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button, hit that like button. We appreciate it as always. Buck Rising will be back live tonight, A to Z Sports Primetime. We'll see you guys tomorrow morning at 8. Appreciate it as always.
Adios.